some people, women mostly, are socialized to give, while others, often men, are allowed to just be.
You're listening to Overwhelmed Working Woman, the podcast that helps you be more calm and more productive by doing less. I'm your host, Michelle Gauthier, a former overwhelmed working woman and current life coach. On this show, we unpack the stress and pressure that today's working woman experiences. And in each episode, you'll get a strategy to bring more calm, ease, and relaxation to your life.
Hi, friend. Today I am reviewing a book called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily Nagoski and Amelia Nagoski. They're definitely sisters. They might even be twins. I can't remember. If you've listened to one of my book reviews before, I have two goals in mind. One is to give you information that can just help you today. Maybe there's one little takeaway you can take and implement and take it away, and then to help you decide if this is a book that you might want to read. So when you listen today, you'll learn why burnout isn't just about being too busy. It really gets to the root of what's causing it in your body and how to complete the stress cycle. If you're like, what is a stress cycle? You're going to find that out too, so that you can stop carrying stress in your body, and what human giver syndrome is and how women are basically trained to burn out. This book is right up our alley here on Overwhelmed Working Woman because we're talking about emotional exhaustion, people pleasing, the pressure to keep it all together, and what happens when you do that, which is essentially overwhelm and burnout. Okay, so let's jump into it. I really liked this book. I thought it was interesting because I talk a lot about mindset and thoughts, and I also believe that all of our feelings and our stress shows up in our body. And this book talks a lot about that, about the stress that's happening in your body. So one of the things that was really helpful to me from this book was the idea that stress is a biological process. So it's not just in your mind. Yes, it's a feeling and it's in your mind and there are thoughts about that stress, but it's also in your body. And the way that they describe it in the book is that burnout happens when we don't complete that stress cycle that is happening for all of us. So we just, on a regular day, we wake up and we go from stressor to stressor. So you commute to work, you have a stressful meeting, one of your kids calls you while you're trying to work, you're trying to solve whatever problem they're having, you get home, you don't have stuff for dinner, you got to make dinner, then you go back and write all the emails that you didn't get to write when you were at the office without ever signaling to our body that the danger is over, the danger of a stressful situation. So our body will sometimes feel like we are truly in danger when we are, for example, commuting or writing an email back to someone who feels really stressful to us. So our body gets mixed up and feels like we're being chased by a tiger all day, except the tiger is like your inbox in the example that I was just using. And when that stress cycle doesn't complete, it gets stuck. And think about that stress just being stuck in your body and building up over time. That's what creates burnout. The good thing is, you're not just out of luck on this. In the book, they share science-backed ways to complete the stress cycle. There's lots about this in the book, but some of them are movement, not for the calories, but for the release. So walking or dancing or shaking it out, like physically, literally shaking your whole body. Crying physically completes the stress response. Boy, I wish I had known that years ago. Laughter. Belly laughs. I laugh even just saying the word laughter. It is so true though. When you're stressed out and you have a real belly laugh, it's amazing what that can do for you. Affection or connection. So a 20-second hug with someone who feels really safe. Breath work, especially when you exhale longer than you inhale. So their point in the book is those aren't nice to haves that you should do at the end of the day. They say they're as necessary as brushing your teeth when you go to bed. Love that whole concept. The other concept that kind of blew my mind was the idea of human giver syndrome and explains so much about women. The name human giver comes from the idea that some people, women mostly, caretakers, people pleasers, are socialized to give, while others, often men, are allowed to just be, right? So men can be human beings and women have to be human givers. What they talk about in the book is that we're essentially taught, even if someone didn't sit you down and teach you this, that your job is to be helpful, pleasant, attractive, accommodating, and that your worth is then developed on how much you give to others. We also learn that saying no is selfish and that our emotions are too much unless those emotions are happy and grateful. So if that rings a bell with you, then you too might be a human giver. If you're a human giver, the solution to that is just realizing that you are one. And if you've been listening to this podcast, then you probably know if you are or not. And there's lots of ways to stop people pleasing, to say no, and to stop putting others first all the time. And then the third thing that I really took from this book is that burnout isn't a time problem, it's an emotional one. So what they say in the book is you're not burned out because you're doing too much. Yes, you're probably doing too much, but the burnout is caused because you're suppressing too much. So we're not just busy. We're holding in resentment, we're holding in grief, we're holding in disappointment, we're holding in stress. And on top of that, we're smiling all the way through it. So this book isn't do less. It's basically feel your feelings, process your stress, give your body a chance to come back where it feels safe. You've probably heard me say this before, but our body keeps the score so that when you have an emotion, if you don't allow that emotion to be processed, you can shove it down, but it doesn't make them go away. It's just being stored there. And so the more disconnected you are from your feelings and not even realizing that you're holding on to this, the more likely you are to burn out. So the big 3 takeaways from this book are complete the stress cycle, go for a walk, laugh, hug somebody, that your burnout is really caused from the unprocessed stress. Recognize if you're a human giver or a human being, or sometimes both, and notice that you were probably conditioned to be that way, and remember that you can decide to become a different way. Feel your feelings. Emotional suppression is exhausting, and honesty and just feeling those feelings is what starts the healing. I definitely liked this book. If this sounds like it would be a good one for you, I realized as I was writing this podcast that I have 2 copies. I don't actually know why I have 2 copies of the book. But if this sounds like one you'd like to read and you're the first person to send me a message about it, I will happily drop this book in the mail for you. Okay, that's it for today. Have a great week. Go for a little walk, feel your feelings, whatever you got to do to avoid that burnout.
Thank you for listening to the Overwhelmed Working Woman podcast. If you want to learn more about my work, head over to my website at michellegothier.com. See you next week.